Wind power is the energy that is obtained from the wind, or in other words, it is to take advantage of the movement of earth masses and convert it into mechanical energy, from which water can be pumped, grains can be ground, or electricity or other useful forms of energy for the human being can be generated. Because the surface of the earth is uneven, solar radiation produces zones with different temperatures, which in turn generate regions of high and low pressures, since hot air tends to rise and cold to go down. The resulting air displacements constitute, in broad terms, what we know as the wind. The use of wind force or wind power is not something new. It is, along with thermal, one of the energies used since ancient times. The oldest reference is a windmill that was used by Hero of Alexandria to operate an organ in the 1st century. The first mills for practical use were built in the Persian region of Sistan in the 7th century, in what is now eastern Iran and western Afghanistan. These were vertical axis mills with rectangular blades. They were used as artifacts to grind wheat or extract water and had from 6 to 8 blades covered with cloth. The mills appeared in Europe in the 13th century, in France and England, and spread across the continent. These had a number of common characteristics. At the top of the mill stood a horizontal axis. From 4 to 8 blades with a length between 3 and 9 meters were connected to this axis, and the wooden beams were covered with cloth or wooden planks. The energy generated by the rotation of the shaft was transmitted through a gear system to the mill machinery located at the base of the structure. Horizontal axis mills were used extensively in Western Europe to grind wheat from the 1180s onwards. There are still machines of this type, for example, in the Netherlands, to pump water. In the United States, the development of wind pumps, recognizable by their multiple metal blades, was the main factor that allowed for agriculture and livestock to develop in vast areas of North America, otherwise impossible without easy access to water. These pumps contributed to the expansion of the railroad around the world, covering the water needs of steam locomotives. The wind power industry in modern times began in 1979 with the serial production of wind turbines by manufacturers Courant, Vestas, Northank, and Bonus. Those turbines were small by current standards, with capacities of 20 to 30 kilowatt each. Since then, the size of the turbines has grown tremendously, and production has expanded to many places. A wind turbine or area generator is an electric generator that works by converting the kinetic energy of the wind into mechanical energy through a propeller that, by means of a mechanical transmission system, rotates the rotor of a generator, usually a 3-phase alternator, which converts rotational mechanical energy into electrical energy. A wind turbine has up to 8,000 different components. However, the main ones are propeller or rotor, which can have a diameter of 140 to 260 feet and produce equivalent powers of several megawatts, blade tilt system, rotor axis, brake, gearbox, transmission or multiplier. It may or may not be present depending on the model, and it transforms the low speed of the rotor shaft into high rotational speed on the shaft of the electric generator, generator axis, generator. There are several types, and we can define it as a part of the turbine that converts energy into electricity. Control system takes care of the safe and efficient operation of the equipment, controls the orientation of the turbine, the position of the blades, and the total power delivered by the equipment. Vane and anemometer. Nacelle. It serves as housing for the mechanical and electrical elements of the turbine. Orientation system, which allows the rotor to be placed perpendicular to the wind. The tower places the generator at a certain height where the winds are of greater intensity, allows the rotation of the blades, and transmits the loads of the equipment to the ground. Connection to the electric grid. There are different types of wind turbines depending on their power, the arrangement of the rotation axis, the type of generator, etc., and can work in isolation or grouped in wind farms or wind generation plants separated from each other depending on the environmental impact and the turbulence generated by the movement of the blades. To provide power to the electricity grid, wind turbines must be equipped with a synchronization system so that the frequency of the generated current matches perfectly with the frequency of the network. The installation of wind power equipment requires a considerable initial investment. but it does not represent fuel costs afterwards. The price of wind power is therefore much more stable than the price of fossil energy sources, much more volatile. The marginal cost of wind power, once the plant has been built and is running, is generally less than 1 cent per dollar per kilowatt hour. Even this cost has been reduced with the technological improvement of the most recent turbines. At the present day, the 5 main countries that generate electricity from wind power are China, the United States, Germany, India, and Spain. Wind energy, like all others, has its advantages and disadvantages. Some disadvantages are the following. Due to the natural variability and unpredictability of the wind, in order for wind power to be used as the only source of electrical energy, it is necessary to store the energy produced when there is wind to then be able to use it when there is not. But, so far, there are no systems large enough to store considerable amounts of energy efficiently, so a backup of conventional energy such as coal, natural gas, oil, or combined cycle or reversible hydroelectric power plants is essential, for example. To distribute the electricity produced by each wind farm, which are usually located in secluded natural areas, it is necessary to build high voltage lines, which sometimes implies damaging effects to the environment and the ecosystem, without taking into account the number of birds and bats that die for each installed turbine. In addition to the obvious need for a minimum wind speed to move the blades, there is also a superior limitation. A machine may be generating its maximum power, but if the wind speed exceeds the specifications of the wind turbine, it is mandatory to disconnect it from the network or change the inclination of the blades so that they stop rotating, since its structure can be damaged by the stresses that appear in the shaft. The immediate consequence is an evident decrease in electricity production despite the abundance of wind, and it represents another factor of uncertainty when it comes to having this energy in the electricity grid. More recently, the possibility that its widespread use could even contribute to global warming by blocking air currents has been suggested. The following can be considered as advantages of wind power. It is a type of renewable energy since it has its origin in atmospheric processes due to the energy that reaches the Earth from the Sun. It is a clean energy because it does not require combustion, so it does not produce atmospheric emissions or polluting waste, thus avoiding and increasing the greenhouse effect and climate change. It can be installed in spaces not suitable for other purposes, for example in desert areas, near the coast, on arid slopes or very steep to be farmed. It can coexist with other land uses, for example meadows for livestock use, or low crops such as wheat and corn among others, creates a large number of jobs in assembly plants and installation areas. Its installation is fast, between 4 and 9 months. Its inclusion in an electrical network allows, when wind conditions are adequate, to save fuel in thermal power plants and or water in reservoirs of hydroelectric power plants. Its use, combined with other types of energy, usually photovoltaic solar energy, allows for self-sustainability of homes, achieving autonomy greater than 82 hours and thus ending the need to connect to supply networks. It is possible to build wind farms in the sea, where the wind is stronger, more constant, and the environmental and social impact is lower, although installation and maintenance costs increase. Knowing the pros and cons of the widespread use of this type of energy, it is not clear if it will really help reduce global warming, contributing to curb climate change, or if its impact will be neutral or even if it will produce the opposite effect. Only time will tell what will happen. If you like this video, please share it with your family and friends and subscribe to our channel so we can do more like this. Thank you.